The original WoW developers have already given us the exact blueprint for Classic Plus. You know, the upcoming MMO that's based on the original World of Warcraft. But here's the craziest part. The information from one verified Classic Plus alpha tester, it perfectly
Man said one verified alpha tester. Who did the fucking verification? Who verified this individual? I'm gonna throw hands with Jerome at fucking BlizzCon. I swear to fucking God. Let me move my fucking camera to a different corner as well so you guys can actually get rage baited with me together.
Matches those blueprints. See, the original 2004 World of Warcraft, it actually cut a whole lot of very beloved ideas that the developers had. There was a massive list of cut things, according to John Statz, who's known for creating masterpieces like Deadmines and Karazhan. According to John Statz, who's known for creating masterpieces like...
Note, he did not make Deadmines. He made AQ40, BFD, Kara, BB, BRM, Wailing Caverns, Skolo, RFD, and more. What is this clip you guys sent?
Jerome, you don't get a fucking choice. I'm not asking for your opinion here. I'm telling you what's happening.
What am I doing to Jerome? What?
Alright, chat. You guys might be in luck to see Jerome Ebon fucking...
Why would you clip the clip like that? I forgot about this clip. Me and Jerome are not fucking at BlizzCon. That is not fucking happening. First of all, that is not happening. I'm getting back to this goddamn video.
Deadmines and Karazhan.
That's the whiteboard with this is the designer's whiteboard.
Didn't we call it the list of love? Yeah, this was so that ideas didn't get forgotten.
I love these old maps. These old maps are phenomenal. Chat, I'm moving on. I'm not responding to anybody. I'm not reading chat right now.
This is
back yeah, they had a whole long list
because it's like, hey, these are great ideas, but we can't get to them, so we're going to keep them in this file.
But really, why was so much content cut from the original vanilla? Grim Batul, the Emerald Dream, even Karazhan itself? Well, there are really two very fascinating reasons. The first reason, well, it really comes back to technology. Every single decision the original developers had to make, it came back to limitations and what the engine could actually handle. In fact, the very first expansion, the Burning Crusade, with, you know, the outline and everything, it was...
I'm gonna answer this before Jerome says it, to see if he says the correct thing. They made Outland because they wanted to add flying, and they did not want to reinvent the entire vanilla world map because most of the entire surrounding continent's outer edge is broken. And a lot of the flight paths are through janky areas hidden by good editing. They said this. This is an interview. They've said this in an interview. There's multiple reasons for why they wanted TBC. They wanted to make an expansion to sell more money, yada, yada, yada. But that was one of the reasons why they went with TBC, was to add flying. They wanted to make TBC regardless.
Wasn't picked because it was the only option they had, but because if Blizzard even tried to add more content to Azeroth, the game simply could not have handled it. When the land masses were finalized, when everything was finalized, pretty much the game was capped.
The reason why we did the Burning Crusade was because we had to keep people off of Azeroth. There's so much data on those two world tabs. The Eastern Kingdoms is one world tab. That's why you get a hard load when you go from there to a dungeon or from there to the Kalimdor. Yeah, Joe, the server guy, Joe Rumsey was like, guys, there's too much data. There's way too much data. We can't keep adding zones to these areas. So that's why we went to the Burning Crusade. Maybe to let the server architecture and hardware.
Yeah, but they've talked about this before as well. They chose not to do the South Seas either. They literally, you can see it in Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms. They added the islands of Bloodmist Isle and Azure Mist Isle, as well as Ghostlands and Eversong Woods, onto a separate world shard based on the TBC server structure. If they wanted to add a new expansion, for example, South Seas, or Uldum, or Tel Abim, or Kazan, they could have added a separate continental server shard, same way they did with TBC. They didn't want to, I mean, I guess there's multiple reasons for why. This is a good one too. But they wanted to do a lot of unique things. Flying was something, level 70 was something that, like, a lot of these ideas were talked about for vanilla. Level 70 was the original level cap for vanilla. That's one of the major reasons. There's a lot of things they wanted to do. And yes, technological limitations is a rather big one. At the same time, redoing all of vanilla to make flying possible would not have worked in terms of time strain, budgetary constraints, and a lot of other reasons on top of that.
Catch up with our plans.
But it gets deeper than that too. because the reality was that the original expansion the developers wanted was not actually the Burning Crusade in the first place. If the technology had allowed it, the original expansion that Blizzard dreamed of adding was a South Seas expansion. It would have been very pirate-themed. Mind you, this was when Pirates of the Caribbean came out, so it makes sense, and it would feature areas like Tel Aviv. The planning of a South Seas expansion is even shown on the whiteboards around Blizzard's offices during development.
Our first expansion was going to be South. We liked Booty Bay so much. Some people romanticized about the idea of sailing a ship. We were thinking of Nadjatar being a source where the Naga. That was the days where we thought the Naga were going to be playable.
Ultimately, though, the technology limits, they weren't.
Naga was one of the early scrapped races very early on in the development cycle. They talked about Illidari and Scourge from very, very early pre-alpha, like before they even started development. Like they had a lot of plans and ideas across the board. It is kind of interesting, like seeing these clips come back up, these 2019, 17, 18, 20 clips, because these are a lot of interviews from a long time ago, right? They're very old interviews. A lot of these aren't new. It is kind of interesting to hear how much content that they were planning on working on that never actually made it to the game. And then and they still haven't finished it in retail either.
Just for adding land masses though, because they also really permeated every single decision that was made during the development. Take dungeons and raids, where it really is a miracle that we got so many epic dungeons like Blackrock Depths. Every single step of the way, the developers were fighting the tools and the limitations of the engine and what was actually even possible. Now in 2026, the technology is vastly superior to what it was back then. And MMO limits, they just aren't what they used to be. In Classic Plus, the original developer ideas and designs, well, they can truly finally be realized. Imagine dungeons that are even bigger than Blackrock Depths, bigger and grander raids too. Maybe they throw in an 80-man raid. And one leak even mentioned a Blackrock Depths raid, instantly turning BRD into a freaking Old War level epic. Or imagine Blizzard giving us the most epic version of Grim Battle ever. Or even finally and fully realizing the original vision of the Dragon Isles. The Dragon Isles, which were cut, were incredibly ambitious. It featured content like a 60-man raid. And the reasons the Dragon Isles were cut went beyond just technology. See, the original vision of World of Warcraft, it changed so much during development. The level cap at launch wasn't meant to be 60. It was actually meant to be 70. And the Dragon Isles were technically meant to be a 65 to 70 zone. When the level cap was dropped to 60, the zone no longer really felt needed. Ultimately, that was the case with a lot of the scrap content. Vanilla World of Warcraft, at first, was designed with leveling taking a really long-ass time. You can imagine leveling from 1 to 70 with vanilla XP rates. It would have been a kind of a quit-your-job situation. But even 1 to 60,
Honestly speaking, leveling from 1 to 70 with vanilla leveling speeds would probably take the average person 12 to 15 days / played. 9 or 10 days on the lower end of things. That'd be super fucking brutal.
Original design facilitated very, very slow leveling. Originally, the game was about slowly grinding mobs and just doing that over and over and over again. And you can imagine that would not have led to very fast leveling. But here's the thing. By 2004, the way you leveled up in the game had changed massively.
And we kind of had an oh shit moment right after that Elwynn Forest playtest where we realized like we had vastly underestimated the number of quests we were going to need. We decided in World of Warcraft, we said, why don't we make the path of least resistance? So in this case, the way to get the best experience, the fastest, not to be killing creatures in one place, but we'll overload the experience into the quests themselves, and then that will move you through the world.
God, I wish so many of these OG devs were still here. I would love to interview the OG devs in depth. I would love to go through these developers and like actually pick their brains on like an in-depth deep dive on the original dungeons, the original expansions. I want to learn more about the South Seas. I want to learn more about the original Ulduar and Uldum. I want to learn more about the original Hyjal and the Emerald Dream. Because they've talked about it quite a bit, but it's always been limited conversation. I would love to pick Metzen's brain. I would love to one day sit down with Metzen and have an hour deep dive over the original lore. I would love to hear what he actually has to say.
Which will get you to see everything. It will enable us to tell these awesome storylines.
As a result of making the game quest-based instead of grind-based, leveling got a lot faster. While most players definitely preferred the questing style to grinding aimlessly, maybe you disagree, but ultimately it meant Blizzard had a very tough decision on their hands. Leveling got to a place where it was fast enough and good enough to ship. At some point, Blizzard had to make the decision, okay, some of this dream developer content, it just isn't going to be able to make it into the game in time for launch. And remember the technology limit. Once those decisions were made, they were really set in stone for a very long time. It was 5+ years before any really meaningful changes were made to the game, because making major changes and additions to Azeroth, it just wasn't technologically possible. But forget the potentially very, very promising tech improvements in Classic Plus, because we need to go back to the leak itself on MMO Champion. It specifically mentions that Classic Plus, it's going to value your time, and also you'll be...
I still want to know who verified this leak. I genuinely want to know who verified this random ass leak, because this leak is not real. Like,
specifically mentions that Classic Plus, it's going to value your time, and also it's specific in Classic Plus, because we need to go back to the...
It's by like 2 straw tin pennies, for I let though with the star stride, for cups that I bring, I am Fisher King. Like, he's acting like it's Pat Nagel, the developer. Growing tiresome of countless fake leaks, the lore is struck by negativity encroaching on our impeding mystery adventure. Enveloped in shadowed hype for the other world, there it was seen. Spotted like a blazing spark. Classic Plus is real, its forthcoming is confirmed. Realistically, however, when is still uncertain. Announcement of BlizzCon 2026 is what some speculate, but we shall see. What I'm certain of is the build I witnessed up till now will likely change in many ways upon release and well upon further releases. I've read this leak. I've read this leak, but it's not confirmed. You can't confirm this shit.
Leak itself on MMO Champion. It specifically mentions that Classic Plus, it's going to value your time, and also you'll be slowing things down and soaking in the world around you. Maybe it's not so in-game focused anymore. All of a sudden, all the cut content that Blizzard wanted to put in the game that they just couldn't because of time limits, well, it can come back. It makes perfect and complete sense to add all of those cut features and ideas and zones and quests back into the game. The Dragon Isles, or Telebeam, or Hyjal, or Gilneas. It just suddenly fits perfectly into this new vision. The technology in 2026, it allows that cut content to really shine. Dragon Isles with the verticality that was just never going to work in 2004, it could work perfectly. The original South Seas expansion, why not bring it back and see what Azeroth would be like if we hadn't just gone straight to the Dark Portal? Even the Emerald Dream, it wasn't cut because it was bad, but because visually it just didn't look right in the 2004 technology.
They've talked about the Emerald Dream a few times, how it took them so long, and every time they tried to make the Emerald Dream, they gave up on it because it's such a complicated design philosophy to make the Emerald Dream look remotely good. It's been an ongoing project for over 20 years. Like, I would love for Classic Plus to have the Emerald Dream, but I'm genuinely curious what design direction they'll go with to make the Emerald Dream work, because Blizzard is still struggling with the Emerald Dream to this day. It's just not something they've managed to click. So it's been something they've wanted to do for the longest time, but I just don't see how they're going to successfully do it.
These were the right idea at the wrong time. The tech just wasn't there to support them. Ultimately, the game had to ship at some point. But in 2026, every single one of these ideas is completely possible. All of the cut content that the original devs wished and truly wanted to have in the game is back on the table. And at the same time, so many players, myself included, want long and engaging journeys again. Things that immerse us and make us feel like we're kids playing back in 2004 again. This is what Classic Plus is going to be, and I could not be more excited. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe for the latest Classic Plus news. Only 36 days left before the reveal of what we're going to be getting.
I'm subscribed, Jerome. I'm subscribed, I'll tell you that much. Content cut from vanilla confirmed by the devs. Yeah, chat, you heard it here first. Confirmed by the devs.